Hi, I'm Kevin Golden, a member of the James Moore manufacturing team. I'm here today with Sara Swafford, Director of Manufacturing and also a member of our James Moore manufacturing team. More importantly, we're excited to welcome Will Townsend today to the show. Will's Vice President and Principal Analyst at Moor Insights and Strategy. Moor Insights and Strategy is a top-ranked global technology analyst and advisory firm. Will leads networking and security research focused on carriers, enterprise networking, and infrastructure. He has over 30 years of experience in the tech industry, including leadership roles at Dell, Compaq, and Cyrix, and he brings deep expertise in product marketing and business development. So today we're going to be discussing with Will the what I consider the evergreen topic of artificial intelligence. I mean, everyone's talking about it all the time. We frequently mention on our show that the purpose of this is to add value, and AI is no different, right? There's definitely value to be gained there. But no matter how cool it looks or how many times there's test cases or case studies about how well it may work for a manufacturer company, there's still slow adopters, people who are unwilling, or maybe they don't feel like they have the budget for it, or maybe they just don't want to. It's change, and who likes change, right? So today Will and Sara are going to help us discuss why adopting artificial intelligence in your manufacturing company, it's not an option, it's almost a necessity, right? So first of all, Will, welcome to the show.
Hey, Kevin, thanks for having me. I'm looking forward to the conversation.
Yeah, absolutely, absolutely. So before we dig deep into this, artificial intelligence on manufacturing, get your opinion on that. Just tell us a little bit more about, I guess, pun intended, more insights and strategy, including your role there. I mean, what all services do you provide? What do you deal with maybe on a day-to-day, regular basis?
Yeah, no, it's a great question. So I manage the networking, the cybersecurity, and the telecommunication practices for the firm. Been doing that for nearly a decade now. And as you mentioned, I bring 30 years of experience. Started my career at Dell in the 90s, moved into a product marketing role when I did an MBA. And it's funny, like my mother-in-law still doesn't understand what I do. And so I tell her, well, hey mom, I used to give away my opinion for free. Now I get paid for it.
Yeah,
So advisory is a big focus for what I do. I help my clients with product roadmap rationalization, messaging construction, competitive analysis, and really lean into my experience to help provide value in thought leadership for the companies that I love to work with and that I believe in.
yeah. Well, and that's perfect with, again, on this show. It's if we're not providing value, if whatever we're doing
Yeah.
is not providing value, I mean, why are we doing it, right? We
So,
should be really focused on things that are going to add value. That may look different, but add value. So obviously, with everything you deal with on a day-to-day basis, you're right there in the thick of it as well with your clients and with companies you speak with on day-to-day. So let's kick it off. You know, in the manufacturing sector, what are some primary motivators you see in adopting AI?
well, I mean, there are a ton. I mean, number one, when you automate, you have the potential to improve yields, and that's very, very important when you look at managing supply chains and that sort of thing. And I think another, and this has always been the case, but predictive maintenance and what modern AI can do, especially agentic frameworks that are emerging, can speed automation. But at a very, very high level, it's all about using data to unlock new insights. And it's amazing. I spent a lot of time with customers and infrastructure providers. One of the things that customers tend to struggle with is leveraging all the data that's at their disposal, whether it's structured or unstructured. There's a lot of machine data that can be leveraged, and companies like Cisco are launching fabrics that allow customers to harness the power of machine data. And that's where I believe things are heading. And when you look at the improvements in efficiency and productivity, and also in worker safety as well, I think modern AI can have a huge impact.
Yeah. Yeah. I've also seen that sustainability is another reason that folks are diving into AI just to help reduce waste and energy usage as well.
No, I agree. And I think there's another sort of flip side to that coin on sustainability, and it's the concern around power consumption because these modern AI workloads do consume a lot of power. It's a token based, scenario. There are discussions around like how can power grids support that? How can we get closer to greener IT when it comes to AI. The good thing is, like, I work with companies like Hewlett Packard Enterprise. So their labs division is very, very focused on practical research to address that need. And I think we're going to start seeing some of the fruits of that research from HPE and others down the road, because we do need to deliver highly sustainable infrastructure tied to these modern AI applications and workloads.
Yeah, let me ask you another question. As you mentioned a lot of great reasons there, both you and Sarah did, about, how AI can be beneficial. So is it mostly out of those pains or those problems like preventative maintenance? I think is one thing you mentioned
Yeah,
earlier. That you see people saying, you know what, okay, I need to get on board. I've got to find a better solution because now it's got that ripple effect of, okay, I'm now not as productive. I'm shut down for
yeah,
X period of time. That translates into real dollars.
mhm,
They start feeling it. Anyone who feels it hit their wallet, of course, is going to do something, right?
yeah.
Yeah. But do you see that most people, I mean, you obviously have your early adopters on AI, then you have people who are going to lag way behind. And then you have that middle group, that maybe they're not going to jump right on board, but they're also not going to be the people who are going to lag way behind. Are what you're seeing for most people who are finally saying, you know what, I need to get on board with this. I need to start even at a small degree implementing AI into everything I do or into how I operate and run my business. Um, is that because it stems out of, oh gosh, I have a problem and AI is going to help me fix that? Or what other motivators do you see in there is probably the primary reason to get someone to rip that band-aid off?
Yeah, it's a great question. And I think number one, there needs to be trust established with AI. And I think that's what, is kind of a hesitating factor for a lot of companies. There are also concerns about cost. And I know we're going to get into that later in our discussion. But I think at a very high level, there's this need to stay competitive, right? So in the manufacturing sector, it's highly competitive, and others are going to adopt AI. And so from my perspective, it becomes a competitive disadvantage if you don't embrace it. Now, there are a lot of proof of concepts that are going on, and there are a lot of statistics that are stating that, 90 something 6% of proof of concepts within AI, and this is not manufacturing, but very broadly stated, we're
Right.
not moving to production. Now, I believe that's because we've got this trust issue. It's also what we're seeing with modern AI is very nascent, and data is required to train these algorithms and to improve outcomes, and that's gonna occur over time. But beyond the efficiencies that we were just speaking about, at a very high level, from my perspective, if organizations in manufacturing do not adopt modern AI, they're going to put OpEx and CapEx pressures potentially on their margins, on their future profitability. So there's a direct business impact from not only being less competitive, but being inefficient from a balance sheet perspective.
Right. And I wonder if that competitive gap widens faster than with past technologies, because AI, compounds over time. So
Yeah.
that gap just grows exponentially.
It does, and again, we're in early days. I like to call it, a baseball game. We're in early innings, and it's likely going to go to extra innings. People are going to have to kick the tires on this. When I talk to customers, a lot of times the edict comes from top down. It's like, we have to have an AI strategy. What I would encourage organizations, including manufacturers, to do is, what are you wanting to accomplish? What business outcome are you wanting to drive? And then find the right solution, because there are hundreds of open models. You have, a number of different, solutions, from Perplexity, from ChatGPT, and OpenAI. And, at times I think it's almost like organizations are looking to solve a problem that they haven't even really formulated. So I think the first
Right.
step is, look at your current manufacturing processes. Where are you inefficient? And then engage someone like myself, or like your organization, to put the right plan together to go address the right business outcome that you want to realize.
Right.
Yeah.
Do you think that there's areas where AI may be the wrong choice? Where there's heavy craftsmanship or human oversight?
That's a great question. I think you're always going to want to have a human in the loop, regardless of what you do. And so
Right.
for high volume manufacturing, I think AI is something that should be strongly considered. When you look at, to your point, more of the craftsmanship, when you look at, I mean, even like when I think of like woodworking and cabinetry that requires a skilled artisan, I think there are still some aspects of AI that you can leverage, and it may not be on the production floor. It may be in research. I mean, as an industry analyst, I do not use generative AI to do any of my writing because that would be a big no-no. That would diminish my credibility. But I use it very effectively for research. I use it very effectively to understand the current competitive landscape when I'm walking into a client and I'm doing a competitive readout. But I also have to judge that with my own knowledge as well, because again, we're in very early days. Data is used to train these models. All the data thus far has been gleaned from the internet. And now what customers are doing is they're leveraging their own private data to fine tune their models. And so that's another consideration. And that's what I see happening. These models are based on open standards, and companies are very quickly building their own bespoke AI models that are tuned to their data to deliver a very, very tailored outcome.
Yeah.
Right. Right. Yeah. And that's, I mean, I think what you're saying there is assist, not replaced, right?
Exactly.
I mean, AI is here to assist in all these categories. Maybe there's not any one particular where we say, no, you shouldn't go there with AI, other than just letting AI run amok and by itself,
Right.
right? Without any of that oversight.
Yeah.
So more as a tool, not maybe the decision maker on
Exactly.
whether it's a task or whether it's an operational decision or whatnot. But like you said, even with yourself, don't let it write for me, but it definitely helps shape my research and all that then helps the ripple effect of helps what you produce, what you write, what you publish.
It's gonna
Look,
Yeah, it's gonna
go ahead.
augment, from my perspective, Kevin, what you can do, what you can accomplish. It's gonna be a force multiplier. It allows me
Right.
to be more efficient and I can get more done in less time. And I think that's the way people should view this. And as they get more comfortable with modern AI, it's not necessarily going to replace humans, but it's going to augment our potential and our productivity.
Yeah.
Right. Right. And going back for a minute, one thing you talked about earlier was competitive, risk or competition of using that. If we think about of other major technologies in the history, right? One thing that comes to mind is the vehicle. Okay,
Yep.
Model T. Okay, people had an option to say, you know what, I'm not going to do that. Whether it was cost, whether it was new, whatever the reason, similar reasons to today.
Hmm.
Hey, I'm just not going to do that. I'm going to continue to, I'm going to walk. I'm going to use my horse and buggy. I'm going to, do that. Right.
Right.
They had time. Right. I mean, you still have people, especially in larger cities, who have other forms of transportation that doesn't anything with owning a vehicle. Right.
Mhm.
That still exists today. They had time to, I feel like back then you had time to be slow and be very careful in measuring. What do you see in terms of that competitive risk today? I mean, every time there's a new technology, a new revolution, if you
Yeah.
will, of technology, I feel like that time frame, it feels to me, becomes shorter and shorter and shorter between, hey, I'm just checking this out, I'm dipping my toe in the water, between I need to be adopting and changing with it, or I'm left behind. Is that what we're seeing here, similar with AI, that you don't have time, maybe that we did in the past with other technologies, to kind of test it out, test the waters, and eventually come over? What's that urgent? I guess the
Yeah.
urgency there on adopting AI versus I've missed the boat and now I'm way behind.
Yeah, no, I mean, Kevin, it's a great observation. And what we have seen with these major inflection points of technology is a rapid, compression of time. So look at cloud computing as an example.
Mhm.
Look at the internet, the adoption of the internet. I remember, working at Dell back in '99, and that's when we saw the public internet and we saw the potential that was unlocked with e-commerce and that sort of thing. And then cloud computing, a decade and a half later, that compressed the timeline a little bit more. What we're seeing with modern AI is just amazing. I mean, just in the past 6 months, there have been leaps and bounds. And so within the last 2 years, when generative AI first broke, Now we're discussing agentic AI frameworks. We're trying to figure out the security of that, because that's another big challenge from my perspective, is that you've got to ensure, because you're going to have these orchestration agents and these task agents that are driving all the automation, you've got to make sure that they have the right level of permissioning and security. And that's not an easy thing to do, because when you think about the potential for agents, I mean, I've read some studies, not any research that my firm has conducted, but it is estimated within 5 years that the average knowledge worker could have 50, 75, 100 task agents, non-human agents, supplementing their productivity. And you're going to have to secure that as well. So the security implications are huge. The time is compressing. There's already discussion around the next level of modern AI, which is AGI. NVIDIA is talking about physical AI, integrating what we have today, improving that into robotics, and that's going to have a huge impact on manufacturing. I mean, you already have RPA, and I think that's another challenge too. So a lot of a lot of manufacturers are automating, but some of them are just taking the baby steps right now, and it's going to be important, for those kind of folks that are just on starting the journey. First, deploy RPA, deploy basic, robotic automation, process automation within your environment. That's the stepping stone from my perspective to look at agentic frameworks. But the potential for agentic frameworks and the speed of which that they can accomplish these tasks, and then again, the time compression that's happening, you don't want to wait, because if you wait, you're going to be left behind. And it's not a matter of years, it's potentially a matter of months now.
Right. Yeah. And from what you've said and what we've seen, both in AI that's being adopted on the warehouse, in the warehouse, in the upstairs, in the boardroom, and everywhere, it seems like it's pretty much a top to bottom.
Yeah.
It may look different, right, depending on who's using it and what you're using it for, but top to bottom, there's probably some level of AI that can be implemented from the boardroom down to the warehouse floor. And everywhere in between, that somehow affects what you do on a day-to-day, or how you think on a day-to-day basis in your daily routine, your daily tasks.
No, I totally agree. I mean, the applications are for IT environments, for carpeted environments, and OT, non-carpeted environments, manufacturing floors. And if you think about the ability to streamline supply chain management, transportation and logistics, shop floor production, you're absolutely spot on, Kevin. I mean, it will have a dramatic impact on the entire value chain for manufacturers.
Yeah, yeah.
S-
You mentioned earlier. Go ahead, Sarah. I'm sorry. Go
I was
ahead.
going to say, so as you just listed all of the areas that AI can be implemented, do you share the same concern a lot of folks have about, job cuts coming and the elimination of people? Or do you see more of it as a job transformation or reskilling?
That's a great question, Sarah. So, I mean, in manufacturing on the shop floor, it is going to reduce people on the floor. I've
Mhm.
seen that firsthand. I live right outside of Austin, Texas, and Samsung has a number of very highly automated fabs. In fact, they're investing about 17 billion in a new one in Taylor, right outside of Austin. And so it is reducing the number of workers, on the floor. But I also do believe that it's going to create new job opportunities for, because you're going to need operators. You're going to have humans in the loop to manage this. And so that skill set, there's a reskilling opportunity for people, and there's an opportunity for people to move up within the ranks and take on more responsibility and earn more income. So they're definitely within manufacturing, will be some job elimination, but I think the value that it's going to create and the opportunity to upskill people and to give people more opportunities for job advancement is going to be tremendous.
Well, and I'm just curious. I mean, we mentioned upskill, retooling, reskilling a person, but I also wonder, you also hear about in higher education and people coming out of high school and getting, trade jobs and all, that they're being prepared, they're being taught skills and so forth
Yeah.
of jobs that, like we say, don't exist,
Yeah.
right? Exist yet. or like you mentioned earlier, maybe AI is helping out with problems that don't yet exist, but on the cutting edge of that, right? So I wonder, and I know it's just your opinion, but in your opinion, where do you see that labor force for these new jobs for that? Hey, now we have to have someone alongside the tool that maybe they're not, moving the product from A to point B anymore,
Yeah.
but they're overseeing that. They have some input on that, alongside AI, alongside robotics, and so forth. Do you see a lot of that labor force coming from the current? Okay, hey, my job got replaced
Yeah.
from what I did, rote task I did, and now I can be retrained and my time be used better, right? And in a higher and more fruitful position versus no, I'm going to need now to probably go back and get some level of education that didn't exist before, that doesn't even exist necessarily today, or that they're working on,
Yeah.
that someone coming straight out of, say, a secondary college or something like that is being trained on. And that's that kind of workforce of the future of the next generation that you're going to see taking up most of those jobs.
Yeah, I think it's going to be a combination of both. So there are, when you look, at IT and OT staffs, I mean, you do have a mix, based on age, and I do think there are going to be some older folks that they're not going to get it, they're not going to want to embrace it, they don't trust it, they're intimidated by it, and so they're not going to be willing to change. But I do believe that there's a segment of that population that will want to get reskilled. The good news is that higher, institutions are rolling out certification programs, so you don't have to go back to college for 4 years. There are certification programs. We're seeing this in the cybersecurity industry as well because there is just a deficit of skilled analysts, and within cybersecurity. So you're seeing that happen. You're seeing the same thing happen with AI as well. I have a nephew that's in college right now, and there are actually courses that are being taught at the local community college around modern AI and equipping you for those right skill sets. And I also see a lot of infrastructure providers that are investing in this as well. And I mentioned Cisco earlier. Cisco has its network academy, but they've expanded that. Guy Diedrich, a very good friend of mine that also lives in Austin, very close to me, spearheads that effort. And
Mhm.
Cisco, during the pandemic, Cisco actually opened up most of its coursework online to help folks get reskilled during the pandemic. They're doing the same thing with respect to cybersecurity, networking, and AI. Cisco also is on a lot of steering committees and a lot of consortia that are driving the responsible, sustainable use of modern AI. So that's a great resource. So, but at the end of the day, there's no excuse for anyone that wants to get reskilled. I mean, the resources are there. They're at colleges and universities, and even private industry as well is offering those reskilling opportunities.
Well, and I like that too. I tend to agree with you as well. I think it's more on the willingness of the individual and of the person in that trade, versus, any generational or otherwise, time. Just if someone's willing and able,
Yeah.
just like with any other technology, then absolutely. And that's great to hear, especially, I mean, because I guess that's kind of akin to what we've seen in the trades, where you have less and less people going to be plumbers, contractors, and things like that. Okay, hey, they'll get you trained in a short, even coming out of high school in a short order, help you get those certifications and education needed to quickly get to the workforce so you can begin learning and adding to that, because there's just a huge need for that.
Yeah.
There's going to be a similar demand, if not greater, both today and in the future, as it talks about robotics and automation and AI.
Mhm.
So
Very good.
that's good. That's good to hear that you're seeing that as
Yeah.
well. So,
Yeah.
uh, what about cost? And we know you mentioned that earlier, and you also mentioned the word investment. I mean, things like this technology is always some form of investment that we're making, even just those people that you mentioned are just kind of taking those first steps, if you will, into AI implementation. But also, I mean, you can only do what you can do, right? Within your budgetary constraints, especially if I'm a smaller business. I may be very willing, but if I don't have the budget at that point in time, I can't just go out and implement. Then again, just because you have the budget, doesn't mean that there's a lot of cool things you can do, but is it fruitful? Is it
Right.
adding value? even if we can spend the dollar. So for someone, whether you're on the front end of, hey, I'm a small business, I'm a small manufacturer, and I know I need to do this, I'm willing, what would you say as far as an expectation should be set as far as cost goes? Is there a range? Is there, hey, it's really not as bad as you think. You don't have to go hit a home run with
Yeah.
spending hundreds of thousands of dollars automatically, or no, hey, at a
Yeah.
minimum, we're going to need to spend X to kind of get in that space. Where should an owner have their mindset at it when it comes to an expectation on cost to start successfully implementing AI into their manufacturing company?
Kevin, it's a great question. And the way that I'm going to answer that at a very high level is, your mileage may vary, but let me go a little bit deeper there. What I'm seeing from infrastructure providers, whether it's the folks providing the compute infrastructure, HPE, Dell, Lenovo, um, in the cloud service providers as well. I mean, they're sizing this to facilitate a sort of pay as you grow model. And so from my perspective, hey, GPU technology is the underpinning that powers a lot of this, but modern AI is also moving hybrid as well to network edges. And I think the opportunity in manufacturing is to leverage edge AI. And so you have new classes of devices that have AI enabled silicon that allow you to run smaller language models closer to where data is created, and it's much more affordable. The challenge, though, is that, like to your point, where do customers start? And so, my recommendation is um, find a consultancy, and a lot of, traditional value added resellers within the IT distribution channel are building these capabilities so that you can go to them. You can state a budget. You can start small with a proof of concept on proving out one particular use case that you want to drive a business outcome to. And so there's definitely that from my perspective, there isn't like this huge bar where you have to be a multinational company to be able to kick the tires on this. The other thing that I anticipate is going to happen over time is we see continued momentum, and as we move from the proof of concept into production, I do believe that from the likes of Google, AWS, Azure, you're going to begin to start to see AI as a service. I mean, we're already beginning to see GPU as a service to allow organizations that want to manage their own private AI deployment do so very cost effectively because these GPUs are quite expensive, right? And they're hard to get and that sort of thing. So again, it's very early days, but I believe the bar is set so that you can pay as you grow. I do anticipate, like I was saying earlier, that cloud service providers are going to, it just makes perfect sense. I mean, we already have networking as a service. We have, even personal computing as a service. So it's not a stretch to believe that we're going to have modern AI as a service. And then, who knows, several years from now, it can be fine-tuned and tailored for segments and verticals like manufacturing. And there'll already be use cases that have been uncovered. And I anticipate that there will be a kind of a new class of companies and startups that rise up that provide very, very tailored solutions based on sort of a proven track record there. So it's all exciting to see. I mean, I didn't think as I was kind of ending, I'm not ending my career, but I'm sort of in, the later stages of my career. I never expected that we would see something as exciting as cloud computing. And like modern AI is like as exciting as cloud computing times 100 from my perspective.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah. Um, well, I mean, that's good to hear. I mean, I kind of akin it to, and this kind of a plug, if you will, for what you do and what we work with a lot of manufacturers in advisory is a lot of times we tackle that the same way of saying, okay, hey, there's a lot of things you could do,
Yeah.
but let's take it one step at a time.
Right.
What should we do now that's going to make the biggest difference, either because of its long-term implications or the current ROI on that, and then build upon that from there. And next thing you know, as you're building better, more efficiently, you're fixing supply chain issues, all those issues that common manufacturers have. Next thing you know, you now have the resources to say, great, I'm ready to now make this investment into these are my next problems and so forth. So
Yeah.
kind of like you said, kind of pay as you go, or I'll also say as you grow, into that, even if you are a company that's not utilizing AI and you're like, I know I should be, but I'm really not, you can really start. It sounds like you can really start off small,
Yeah.
get that, get it to be helping you and working for you. And again, improving what you do, your process, your procedure, your margins, your bottom line, and then grow it from there into maybe tools or as AI as a service as that develops into something that can kind of help you take that next step.
Yeah, no, I totally agree. And I think what people are going to realize as they conduct these proof of concepts, or they exit a proof of concept and they identify the first business outcome that they want to drive and they implement that, then they measure the ROI and it's like, oh my gosh, we saved 30, from an OpEx perspective, we put 30% back in the bank. You just use that savings to continue to fund your AI journey. So I think that's how it's going to roll for a lot of companies.
Right. Right.
So obviously things that,
Um,
sorry, go ahead.
you're fine. Go ahead, Sarah.
Obviously things that moved really quickly in the last few years. Do you see any significant breakthroughs on the horizon in the next couple of years that are going to us looking back and saying, oh my gosh, I never could have imagined?
Yeah, well, so about a year and a half ago, I spent time with John Deere, and you wouldn't think that John Deere, the tractor manufacturer, would be tech savvy, but they are all on tech. I mean, they have their own data center. They've deployed a private 5G network. I've been to one of their facilities and in Waterloo. And one of the most impressive applications of AI that I've seen is on their shop floor, and they're actually using computer vision to do quality control and inspect welds. And it's more accurate, it's faster, and it's driving improved quality for John Deere. And then they're marrying that with a private 5G network, because the one thing that we haven't talked about in this discussion is the need for connectivity. And I think what gets ignored is networking, because it's not as sexy as compute and NVIDIA GPUs, but NVIDIA, and others like, Broadcom are leaning into next generation Ethernet to accomplish this. And private 5G is also a factor as well. And the team at John Deere is leaning into that quite aggressively. And the other, so not only is there an improvement in quality at John Deere, but they're actually improving worker safety as well. It's an amazing facility. They've got multiple buildings there where, and they're using automated guided vehicles, AGVs. They're moving material around, and it's like a little city. And what the team shared with me is that this is also improving worker safety as well, using computer vision to make sure someone's not going to walk into a weld area or walk into an area with a heavy robotic arm that's carrying something massive like a tractor engine. And so the opportunities to improve worker safety and also improve productivity are huge.
Yeah. Yeah. No, I was going to say that. I was going to ask you for an example. That was a perfect one with John Deere there. Um, I think I would encourage you to, if you're listening to this as well, eh, go talk to others that are in your space, especially in your verticals in manufacturing. Manufacturing is a huge industry.
Yeah.
There's a lot of subsegments of that, if you will. Go talk to them, right? And see what they're doing. I know from my eyes, I learn a lot and experience a lot of what's new, what's going on, the different ways people think about it just by doing tours,
Yeah.
just by meeting different folks, talking with them about the same issues that maybe even more fundamentally as a business owner that you're having, right? Or operationally, or looking at their facilities and what they're doing. Talk about that openly with folks, with especially those in your same areas, right? Because I think there's a lot to garner and to learn from that, as well as speaking with someone like yourself,
Yeah.
Will, about things like this and challenges that you run into. Because again, AI is here to stay. It is the future. It's just how do you best embrace that to again add value and work for you. So I know we're kind of near the end of our time, and appreciate all your insight.
Yeah.
Will, any final before we wrap up? Any other final thoughts you want to give to anyone? Maybe something we haven't covered
Yeah.
yet or mentioning on the topic?
Maybe just, kind of a broader statement. So when we look at, the United States. And, I don't want to get into the politics of anything, but there's a big focus on reshoring manufacturing back here for a number of reasons, for supply chain independence, for semiconductor manufacturing independence. And it's good. It's good for our economy. It's going to drive positive GDP growth. And I would encourage, any manufacturer that's beginning this journey to do kind of exactly what you stated. Like, for example, Jason Wallen at John Deere, he welcomes any U.S. manufacturer to come visit. Now, maybe not Caterpillar or a competitor, but
Sure.
but he welcomes that. He wants to share those learnings because the opportunity to leverage modern AI and to dramatically improve efficiency, production is tremendous, and it's going to provide a competitive edge if you look just at kind of the broader manufacturing landscape that we're trying to drive here. And like for years there was so much offshoring, and we need to bring this back, and it needs to, I believe it needs to be automated, and that's what's exciting to me about modern AI. When you look at generative and agentic and moving to physical, is the opportunity to really provide American manufacturers a solid competitive advantage in the marketplace.
Right.
Yep.
Right. Awesome. Well, thank you again so much, Will, for your insights today, for allowing us to pick your brain, talk about this important topic. Of course, if you're listening, we welcome any questions, comments. Maybe this is something you're experiencing or thinking I should be going through. Make sure you're talking with someone about it, whether it's us, someone like Will. Make sure you're talking with somebody, because again, there will be, it's ever changing, and it's here to stay. So make sure it's helping you along. Maybe you're incorporating that and talking with somebody about how maybe it can best add value to your company. With that, thank you all for listening.
To learn more about James Moore & Company's manufacturing services, go to jmco.com. And don't forget to subscribe to our More on Manufacturing series to receive updates when new videos and podcasts are released. If you'd like to be a guest, or if there's a topic you'd like to see covered on a future episode, contact us on our website. You can also follow us on social media for more news as the landscape on manufacturing continues to rapidly evolve.